Tom Miller wiped sweat from his forehead as he tightened the last bolt on the power generator. The machine hummed back to life, its blue lights casting shadows across the maintenance room. 6 hours of work, but worth every minute. This generator provided power to a quarter of New Haven Colony's living spaces, including the apartment he shared with his daughter Emma. "All fixed, boss?" asked Jack, the junior technician who had been passing Tom tools for the past 2 hours. "Should hold. For another month at least," Tom replied, putting his wrench back into his toolbox. "These old T-90 models weren't built for the dust storms we get here." The colony of New Haven sat on a distant planet, rich with rare minerals. From space, it looked like a collection of white domes and towers spreading across reddish plains. The colony had been established 15 years ago, and Tom had been among the first wave of settlers. Back then he had come with his wife Mary, both of them young engineers looking for adventure and good pay. Now, at 42, Tom was a widowed father with graying temples and hands permanently stained with machine oil. "You heading home now?" Jack asked, helping Tom gather his equipment. Tom checked his watch. "Need to pick up Emma from her friend's place first. It's her 8th birthday tomorrow." Jack smiled. "Got something special planned?" "Cake from the community kitchen and a telescope. She's been talking about stars nonstop since her class visited the observatory deck last month." Tom's face softened when he spoke about his daughter. Since Mary died 2 years ago from a lung infection, Emma had become his whole world. Outside, the maintenance building, New Haven's artificial day was ending. The colony's light systems were shifting from bright white to a softer orange glow, mimicking an Earth sunset. The main dome's climate systems created a pleasant evening breeze. If you ignored the red sky visible through the transparent sections of the dome, it almost felt like a small town back on Earth. Tom walked along the curved path that led to the residential area. Workers were returning from their shifts, some nodding to Tom as they passed. Everyone knew everyone in a colony of just 12,000 people. "Miller," a voice called. Tom turned to see Commander Wilson jogging toward him. Wilson oversaw colony, security, and his usual calm face now showed worry lines. "Commander, what's up?" Tom asked, immediately concerned. Wilson didn't seek people out after shifts without reason. Wilson lowered his voice. "Nothing official yet, but we've been getting strange readings on the long-range scanners. Thought you should know since you helped install those systems when you first arrived." "What kind of readings?" Tom asked, his engineer's mind already working through possibilities. "Energy signatures that don't match any known ship types in our database. They appear and disappear at random. The official line is sensor malfunctions, but..." Wilson trailed off. "But you don't believe that?" Tom finished for him. Wilson shook his head. "I've been running security for 15 years across 3 colonies. Sensor ghosts don't behave like this. Have you reported it up the chain? Sent a message to Alliance headquarters 3 days ago. Still waiting for a response." Wilson sighed. "Just keep your emergency kit updated. That's all I'm saying." Tom nodded, feeling a cold knot form in his stomach. New Haven was important to the Galactic Alliance for its mineral production, but it was also remote. Help was at least 5 days away at maximum speed. "I appreciate the heads up," Tom said. "I'll check the system logs tomorrow if you want a second opinion." Wilson clapped him on the shoulder. "Thanks. And hey, I heard it's Emma's birthday tomorrow. Tell her Uncle Wilson says happy birthday." After Wilson left, Tom walked faster toward the residential sector. The playful sounds of children reached him before he turned the corner to see the small community park, where Emma often played with her friends. 5 children were taking turns on the swing set, while 2 parents watched. Nearby, Emma spotted him immediately. "Dad," she called, her voice carrying across the park. She jumped off the swing and ran toward him, her brown curls bouncing around her face. She looked so much like Mary that sometimes it made Tom's chest hurt. "Hey, Space Cadet," he said, kneeling to catch her in a hug. "Ready to head home?" Emma nodded against his shoulder. "Mrs. Lee made cookies and I helped." She pulled back to look at him with wide blue eyes. "Did you fix the big machine?" "Sure did. Power's all good for your birthday. Tomorrow. Tom stood, taking her small hand in his. Thank you for watching her, he called to Mrs. Lee, who waved back with a smile. As they walked home through the dimming light of the colony, Emma chatted about her day, the science lesson about planets, the drawing she made of their home, the game of tag that ended when Billy fell and scraped his knee. Tom listened, asking questions at the right moments, but part of his mind kept returning to Wilson's warning. He looked up at the clear dome above them, at the unfamiliar stars becoming visible as darkness fell. Somewhere out there, something might be watching. Something unknown. Their apartment was on the 3rd floor of Building C, a simple 2-bedroom unit with basic furnishings. What made it special were the small touches. Emma's drawings on the walls, the plant collection Mary had started that Tom carefully maintained, the family photos displaying happier times. After dinner, as Emma was getting ready for bed, Tom checked their emergency kit. It contained 3 days of food and water, basic medical supplies, emergency blankets, and communication devices. He added extra batteries and his old service pistol from his time in colony security before Emma was born. Dad? Emma stood in the doorway of the storage closet, already in her star-patterned pajamas. What are you doing? Tom quickly closed the kit. Just making sure everything's where it should be, honey. Ready for your story? Later, after reading Emma's favorite book about a brave space explorer, Tom tucked her into bed. Excited for tomorrow? He asked, smoothing her hair. Will we have chocolate cake? Emma asked sleepily. The biggest one Mrs. Parker at the kitchen can make, Tom promised. And after school I have a special present for you. Is it a puppy? Emma asked hopefully. Tom laughed. No puppies on New Haven yet, Space Cadet. The Colony Council is still voting on bringing animals from Earth. Then what is it? She persisted. It's a surprise. That's how presents work. He kissed her forehead. Sleep tight. After Emma fell asleep, Tom sat in the small living room with the lights dimmed. He accessed his tablet and linked to the colony's main system using his engineer clearance. The sensor logs showed exactly what Wilson had described. Strange energy spikes appearing and disappearing. They didn't match any known ship signatures in the database. A chill ran through him as he noticed a pattern. The signals were getting stronger and occurring more frequently. Whatever was causing them was getting closer. Tom wanted to believe it was just a sensor issue, but his gut told him otherwise. He sent a message to Wilson. Check the logs. We should run a full system diagnostic tomorrow. Before going to bed, Tom looked in on Emma one more time. Her face was peaceful in sleep, one arm wrapped around her favorite stuffed bear. Tom felt the fierce protectiveness that had defined his life since becoming a father. Nothing's going to hurt you, he whispered. Not while I'm around. As he prepared for bed, Tom didn't know that tomorrow would never come as planned, that the strange readings would materialize into something far worse than anyone had imagined, that Emma's birthday would be remembered not for cake and presents, but for what would become known across the galaxy as the New Haven Massacre, and that before the sun set again, Tom Miller would make a choice that would save his daughter's life and change the course of history. Tom woke to the sound of his alarm at 0500 hours, just as he did every morning. The apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of the air recycling system. He rolled out of bed, stretched his tired muscles, and headed for the shower. The hot water was a luxury on New Haven, limited to 5 minutes per person per day, but it helped wash away the lingering fatigue from yesterday's generator repair. As he dressed in his standard gray maintenance uniform, Tom checked his tablet. No new messages from Commander Wilson about the strange readings, but there was a notification about increased atmospheric disturbances. The colony's weather control systems were reporting unusual patterns that the computers couldn't explain. Probably just another dust storm brewing, Tom muttered to himself, though he didn't quite believe it. He moved quietly to the kitchen and began preparing a special birthday breakfast for Emma. Pancakes shaped like stars, a rare treat that required him to use a portion of their monthly sugar ration. As the first pancake sizzled in the pan, he heard Emma's bedroom door open. Dad, are you making pancakes? Her voice was still sleepy, but excitement quickly took over as she spotted the batter and the star-shaped mold. "Happy birthday, Space." "Cadet." Tom turned and scooped her up in a hug, spinning her around once before setting her down at the small kitchen table. 8 years old today? You're getting too big." Emma giggled. "I'm still the smallest in my class. Billy says I'm like a space mouse." "Well, space mice are smart and quick," Tom replied, flipping a pancake. "And they fit into small places where bigger creatures can't go. That's an advantage." As they ate breakfast, Tom noticed Emma kept looking at the wrapped package on the counter, her telescope carefully covered in colorful paper he had traded an extra work shift for. "Can I open it now?" she asked, her eyes wide with hope. Tom checked the time. "How about after school? We'll have the whole evening to set it up and look at the stars." Emma nodded, though she couldn't hide her disappointment. "Promise?" "Promise. And tonight is clear, perfect for stargazing." Tom ruffled her hair. "Now go get dressed or we'll be late." As Emma got ready for school, Tom checked his tablet again. 3 new maintenance requests had come in overnight, but what caught his attention was a message from Wilson. "System diagnostic shows no errors. Meeting at Aero 900 to discuss next steps." A knot formed in Tom's stomach. If the diagnostic showed the sensors were working properly, then the readings were real. Something was out there. Outside, the morning light filtered through the dome, casting a reddish glow over the colony. As Tom and Emma walked to her school, he noticed more security personnel than usual patrolling the main pathways. They were trying to look casual, but Tom recognized the subtle signs of heightened alert: hands staying close to weapons, eyes constantly scanning, communication devices actively blinking. "Dad, look!" Emma pointed upward. "The sky looks funny." Tom followed her gaze. Through the clear sections of the dome, the planet's red sky seemed darker than usual, with strange rippling patterns like waves on water. The colony's artificial weather shouldn't allow for such disturbances. "Probably just some high-altitude winds," he said, trying to keep his voice light. "The planet has crazy weather, remember? That's why we live in this big bubble." At the school entrance, Tom knelt down to give Emma a hug. "Have a great day, birthday girl. I'll pick you up right here at 1500 hours. "And then telescope time?" Emma asked. "And then telescope time," Tom confirmed with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. As Emma disappeared into the school building, the smile faded completely. Instead of heading directly to his first maintenance job, Tom changed course toward the colony's security center. He needed to know what Wilson had found. The security center was a hub of quiet activity when Tom arrived. Technicians monitored screens displaying various sections of the colony, while security officers moved with purpose between stations. Wilson stood at the central console, his face grim as he studied a holographic display. "That doesn't look like the face of someone with good news," Tom said as he approached. Wilson didn't even try to smile. Long-range scanners picked up something big. "Entering the system about an hour ago. It's on an approach vector to New Haven." "A ship?" Tom asked. "We think so, but it's not responding to identification requests, and it doesn't match any alliance or known independent vessel configurations." Tom looked at the holographic display. The object was represented by a red dot moving steadily toward the blue sphere that represented their planet. "How long until it reaches orbit?" Wilson's jaw tightened. 2 hours, maybe less if it accelerates. We've sent emergency signals to Alliance headquarters, but the nearest patrol ship is 3 days out. "What about our defenses?" Tom asked, though he already knew the answer. New Haven was a mining colony, not a military outpost. Its defenses were designed to handle small-scale threats like pirates or smugglers, not whatever this was. "We've got 4 orbital defense platforms and 2 armed shuttles," Wilson said. "We're preparing them now, but if this thing is hostile and well-armed..." He left the sentence unfinished. Tom felt cold all over. "What can I do?" "Check the emergency shelters in sectors 3 and 4. Make sure the air filtration and power systems are fully operational. If we need to evacuate people underground, those shelters need to be ready." Tom nodded. "I'll get a team together right away." As he turned to leave, Wilson caught his arm. "Tom, it's Emma's birthday today, isn't it?" Yes, Tom replied quietly. If things go south, family residential units will be the first to evacuate. I've already put her name on the priority list. Tom swallowed hard. Thanks, Wilson. For the next hour, Tom led a small team checking the emergency shelters. They verified power connections, tested communication systems, and ensured the air filtration units were working properly. All the while, updates came through their tablets. The unidentified vessel was still approaching, still not responding to communications. At 10:30 hours, Tom was deep in Shelter 4's maintenance shaft when all their tablets beeped simultaneously. With a colony-wide alert, unidentified vessel has entered orbit. All non-essential personnel return to quarters. This is not a drill. That's it, said Marta, one of the technicians working with Tom. We're done here anyway. Systems check out. They were climbing out of the maintenance shaft when the first explosion shook the colony. The lights flickered and dust rained down from the ceiling. What was that? Someone shouted. Tom's tablet lit up with a new message, this one marked with the highest priority. Colony under attack. Orbital Defense Platform 1 destroyed. All personnel enact emergency protocols immediately. More explosions followed, closer this time. The overhead lights went out completely, replaced seconds later by the dim red glow of emergency lighting. Your shelters, Tom ordered. Get them open and ready to receive people. As his team rushed to follow orders, Tom checked his tablet again. The secure communication channel with security was filled with frantic messages. The unidentified ship had opened fire without warning, taking out the orbital defense platforms with frightening precision. Now it was launching smaller craft toward the surface. Tom's blood ran cold as he realized what was happening. This wasn't a misunderstanding or a show of force. This was an invasion. His thoughts immediately turned to Emma. The school was in Sector 2, at least a 20-minute run from his current position. He had to get to her. Marta, he called. You're in charge here. I need to get to the school. Before she could respond, another explosion rocked the shelter, this one close enough to make the floor buckle. Through the small observation window, Tom could see black smoke rising from buildings in the distance. The colony's emergency sirens finally began to wail, their haunting sound echoing through the corridors. Over the shelter's communication system, a calm voice that Tom recognized as belonging to the colony administrator began giving instructions. This is not a drill. New Haven is under attack. Proceed immediately to your designated emergency shelter. Parents, do not attempt to reach schools. Teachers will bring children to designated shelters. But Tom knew the chaos that would ensue. He knew that in the panic, children could be separated from their groups, left behind, or trapped. I have to go, he told Marta, already moving toward the exit. Tom, wait, she called after him. It's not safe out there. But Tom was already running, his heart pounding in his chest. As he sprinted through the corridors of New Haven, the colony he had helped build, the home he had made for himself and Emma after Mary died, one thought consumed him. Get to Emma. Nothing else matters. The peaceful birthday morning had turned into a nightmare, and New Haven's first contact with an alien species was not the moment of wonder that humanity had hoped for. It was an attack without warning, without mercy, and without explanation. And Tom Miller was running straight toward the heart of it. The world around Tom had transformed into chaos. What was once a peaceful colony now resembled a war zone. Smoke filled the air, making it difficult to breathe. Emergency lights flashed red, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The constant wail of sirens mixed with distant explosions and screams. Tom ran through the streets of New Haven with a single purpose: reach Emma. His lungs burned from the smoke, but he pushed forward, dodging falling debris and panicked colonists who ran in all directions. The school, he gasped to himself, just get to the school. A massive explosion to his right sent him sprawling to the ground. When he looked up, he saw that the colony's main power station was now a smoking crater. The artificial gravity flickered, momentarily, creating a sickening sensation of weightlessness before stabilizing again. Tom pulled himself up and continued running. Ahead he could see 3 security officers directing people toward a shelter entrance. Miller, one of them called out, recognizing him. Where are you going? Shelter's this way. My daughter's at the school, Tom shouted back, not slowing down. The teachers are bringing the kids to shelter too, the officer yelled. But Tom had seen too much chaos already to trust that Emma would make it safely. He had to be sure. As he rounded the corner to the street where Emma's school stood, Tom froze. Through the smoke, he could see shadowy figures, moving among the panicked colonists. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with bodies covered in what looked like armored plates. They carried weapons unlike anything Tom had seen before, long devices that emitted pulses of blue energy. Void hunters, someone whispered beside him. Tom turned to see an older man pressed against the wall. I was on a freighter that barely escaped them 5 years ago. They strip colonies bare, resources, technology, people. They take it all. A cold fear gripped Tom's heart. These weren't just attackers. They were invaders who had come to strip New Haven of everything, including its people. The school, Tom said. I need to get to the school. The man pointed to a narrow alleyway. Service tunnel entrance halfway down there. It'll take you behind the school building. Don't go through the main street. They're rounding people up. There. Tom nodded his thanks and slipped into the alley. He found the service tunnel entrance, a small hatch in the ground that led to the maintenance passages running beneath the colony. As chief maintenance engineer, Tom knew these tunnels better than almost anyone. The tunnel was dark, lit only by emergency lights spaced too far apart. Tom moved as quickly as he dared, counting the junctions until he reached the one that would lead up to the school's utility room. When he emerged from the tunnel into the school building, an eerie silence greeted him. The hallways were deserted, chairs and backpacks scattered as if everyone had left in a hurry. Tom moved quietly, listening for any sound. Emma, he called softly. Anyone here? A small sound came from one of the classrooms, a shuffle and a quick intake of breath. Tom pushed the door open slowly, ready to run if he encountered one of the void hunters. Instead, he found a group of 20 children huddled in the corner with 2 adults, Mrs. Parker, Emma's teacher, and Mr. Reed, the school's maintenance man. Mrs. Parker had her finger to her lips, signaling for silence, but her eyes widened in recognition when she saw Tom. Mr. Miller, she whispered. Thank goodness. And then Emma was running to him, tears streaming down her face. Tom caught her, in his arms, holding her tightly against his chest. Dad, she sobbed quietly. I was so scared. The big booms came and the lights went out and Mrs. Parker said we had to hide. You did good, Space Cadet, Tom whispered, stroking her hair. You did just right. He looked at Mrs. Parker. What happened? Why aren't you at the shelter? Mrs. Parker's face was pale with fear, but her voice remained steady. We were about to leave when we saw them, those things. They were taking people, loading them onto some kind of transport. We came back inside to hide. Mr. Reed added, I tried calling for help on the emergency channel, but communications are down. We were hoping someone would come looking for us. Tom nodded, thinking quickly. The main shelters aren't safe if these void hunters are rounding people up. We need to get to the emergency shuttles at the spaceport. The spaceport? Mrs. Parker looked doubtful. That's on the other side of the colony. It's our best chance, Tom insisted. These creatures, void hunters, they don't just attack. They harvest everything, including people. We need to get off New Haven altogether. A distant explosion punctuated his words, making the children whimper in fear. How do we get there? Mr. Reed asked. The main streets are too exposed. Tom thought for a moment. The maintenance tunnels. They run throughout the colony. It'll be tight and dark, but we can make it. He knelt down to address the children, keeping his voice calm despite the fear threatening to overwhelm him. Kids, we're going to play a game. We need to be quiet explorers going through secret tunnels. Like space mice, remember? Small and quiet and smart. Can you do that? Wide-eyed faces nodded back at him. Good. We'll go in a line. Mrs. Parker will lead. I'll be at the back. Hold hands and don't let go, no matter what. Emma tugged at his sleeve. Dad, I'm scared. Tom looked into his daughter's eyes, so much like her mother's. "I know, Space Cadet, but you're brave too, and I'll be right behind you the whole time." They organized quickly. Mrs. Parker would lead, followed by the children in size order, with Mr. Reed in the middle and Tom bringing up the rear. Tom showed them the way back to the maintenance tunnel entrance he had used. "It's going to be dark," he warned as they prepared to enter. "Just follow the person in front of you and stay quiet." One by one, they climbed down into the tunnel. The smaller children needed help, and Tom lifted each one carefully through the hatch. Emma looked back at him before descending. "Just like exploring a cave on a new planet," Tom said with forced cheerfulness. Once everyone was inside, Tom closed the hatch behind them. The tunnel stretched before them, dimly lit by emergency lights that cast long shadows. "This way," Tom whispered, pointing left. "The tunnel branches after about 100 meters. We need to take the right fork, then the third left. That'll put us on a path to the spaceport." They moved slowly at first, the children frightened by the darkness and the strange echoing sounds. Twice they had to stop and wait in complete silence, as heavy footsteps passed overhead, void hunters patrolling the streets above. The tunnels were a maze, but Tom navigated confidently. After 20 minutes of careful progress, they reached a junction where the tunnel widened slightly. "We can rest here for a minute," Tom said, noticing the smaller children were struggling to keep up. "Everyone sit down and take slow, quiet breaths." As the group rested, Tom checked his tablet. It could no longer connect to the colony's main network, but it still showed a map of the maintenance tunnels. They were about halfway to the spaceport. "Mr. Miller," one of the boys whispered, "what are those things attacking us?" Tom hesitated, unsure how much to tell the frightened children. "They're called void hunters. They're not from around here." "Why are they hurting people?" another child asked. "Some beings don't know how to be kind," Mrs. Parker answered gently. "They only take what they want without asking." A sudden loud bang from above made everyone freeze. Dust rained down from the ceiling as heavy footsteps moved directly overhead. Tom motioned for absolute silence. The children huddled closer together, eyes wide with fear. The footsteps paused as if the void hunter was listening for something. Tom held his breath, acutely aware that the hatch 20 feet away could open at any moment. After what seemed like an eternity, the footsteps moved away. Tom released the breath he'd been holding and waited another minute before whispering, "We need to keep moving, quickly now." They resumed their journey through the tunnels, moving faster despite their fatigue. Tom checked each junction carefully before allowing the group to proceed, wary of patrols that might have found their way into the maintenance system. "Dad," Emma whispered as they paused at another junction. "Are we going to be okay?" Tom squeezed her shoulder gently. "We're going to get through this together. All of us." The words had barely left his mouth when a distant explosion shook the tunnel, causing loose dirt and metal fragments to rain down on them. The children whimpered in fear. "It's okay," Tom said firmly. "The tunnels are designed to withstand much worse. We're safer down here than up there." They continued on, the sounds of destruction growing louder as they approached the spaceport area. When they finally reached the access hatch that would lead them to the spaceport's maintenance bay, Tom held up his hand for everyone to stop. "Need to check if it's safe," he whispered to Mrs. Parker. "Keep everyone here until I signal." "Be careful," she replied, her face etched with worry. Tom climbed the ladder to the hatch and pressed his ear against it. Hearing nothing suspicious, he carefully pushed it open a crack and peered out. The maintenance bay was dark except for emergency lighting. He could see part of the spaceport through the large windows, smoke rising from several buildings, but the landing pads themselves seemed intact. Most importantly, he could see an evacuation shuttle still docked at the nearest pad. Hope surged through him. They might actually make it. "It looks clear," he whispered down to the group. "I'll go first, then signal when it's safe to follow." Tom pushed the hatch fully open and climbed out into the maintenance bay. He scanned the area carefully, then motioned for the others to follow. One by one, the tired and frightened group emerged, from the tunnel into the relative openness of the maintenance bay. The children looked around with wide eyes at the equipment and tools surrounding them. "The shuttle is just through those doors and across the tarmac," Tom explained, pointing. It's about 100 meters of open ground. We'll need to move fast and stay together. He looked at each face in the group, the children trying to be brave, Mrs. Parker with her calm determination, Mr. Reed with his grim resolve, and Emma, his beautiful daughter whose birthday had turned into a nightmare. We're almost there, Tom said. Just a little further and we'll be safe. What he didn't say was that he had no idea what awaited them beyond New Haven, or if the shuttle would even have enough fuel to reach another colony. But right now, escape was all that mattered. Tom took a deep breath. Ready? Tom pressed his back against the maintenance bay wall, peering through the small window that overlooked the landing pad. The evacuation shuttle sat just 100 meters away, its white hull reflecting the emergency lights that flashed across the tarmac. It was their only hope of escape, but reaching it would mean crossing open ground. What do you see? Mr. Reed whispered, coming to stand beside Tom. The shuttle's still there, Tom replied quietly. Looks undamaged, but I don't see any movement, no ground crew, no other evacuees. Is that good or bad? Mrs. Parker asked, holding the hand of a small boy who couldn't stop trembling. Tom's expression was grim. Could mean the crew was captured, or that they're waiting inside for more survivors. He studied the landing area carefully, his eyes narrowing as he spotted movement near one of the damaged hangars. The distinctive tall armored form of a void hunter emerged from the smoke, followed by two more. They were sweeping the area methodically, checking each building. They're here, Tom said, his voice tense. 3 of them, moving toward the western hangars. Will they see us if we run for the shuttle? Mrs. Parker asked. Tom calculated the angles, the distance, the timing. If we wait until they move behind that fuel depot, we'll have about 60 seconds before they have a clear line of sight again. He turned to face the frightened group. The children huddled together, some crying silently, others too shocked to make a sound. Emma stood among them, her small face dirty and tear-streaked, but her eyes fixed on her father with complete trust. Listen, up, Tom said, keeping his voice calm and firm. We're going to run for that shuttle. All together as fast as we can. No stopping, no looking back. If someone falls, the adults will help them up. The only thing that matters is getting on that shuttle. He knelt down to be at eye level with the children. Remember how we practiced emergency drills at school? This is just like that. Mrs. Parker at the front, Mr. Reed in the middle, me at the back. Dad, Emma said, her voice small but steady. What if the shuttle doesn't work? Tom managed to smile for his daughter. Then I'll fix it. That's what I do, remember? I fix things. He checked the landing pad again. The void hunters were moving exactly as he'd predicted, approaching the area behind the fuel depot. Get ready, Tom said. When I say go, we move. Fast and quiet. The group lined up at the door. Mrs. Parker took a deep breath, her hand on the release panel. Mr. Reed positioned himself in the middle of the line of children, ready to help anyone who might struggle. Tom took up the rear position, with Emma, directly in front of him. I love you, Space Cadet, he whispered to her. No matter what happens, remember that. Emma nodded, her small shoulders straightening with resolve. I love you too, Dad. The void hunters disappeared behind the fuel depot. Now, Tom said sharply. Mrs. Parker hit the door panel. It slid open with a soft hiss and they burst out onto the tarmac, running as fast as the smallest children could manage. The distance to the shuttle seemed enormous in the open, every step exposed. They were halfway there when a high-pitched whine filled the air. Tom looked up to see 2 small craft descending rapidly toward the landing pad. Void hunter transport vessels, their sleek black hulls bristling with weapons. Run faster, Tom shouted, all pretense of stealth abandoned. They've seen us. The group surged forward, pure adrenaline pushing them beyond exhaustion. The shuttle was only 30 meters away now. 20, 10. Mrs. Parker reached the shuttle's entry ramp first and slammed her hand against the emergency access panel. The ramp began to lower, agonizingly slow. Come on, Tom muttered, urging the children forward as he continuously looked back to check for pursuers. The three Void Hunters emerged from behind the fuel depot, alerted by the noise. They raised their weapons. "Inside now!" Tom shouted as the ramp touched the ground. He pushed the last of the children toward the opening, counting heads as they scrambled aboard. 19, 20, 21, including Emma. A blue energy pulse hit the ground near Tom's feet, sending up sparks and fragments of the landing pad. The Void Hunters were firing, still too far away for accuracy but closing the distance rapidly. Tom rushed up the ramp after the last child. Inside, the shuttle's emergency lighting cast everything in a dim red glow. The cockpit door was open, revealing the pilot's chair. "Is anyone here a pilot?" Tom called out, already knowing the answer. "I've had basic training," Mr. Reed said. "Part of the security rotation last year." "Get up there and start the launch sequence," Tom ordered. "The controls should be automated for emergency evacuation." More energy pulses hit the shuttle's hull, making the entire vessel shudder. Through the still open ramp, Tom could see the Void Hunters running toward them while the transport vessels maneuvered to block any potential escape route. "Dad!" Emma cried, pointing at a display screen near the ramp controls. It showed the shuttle's status, and a critical warning flashed in red. "Launch inhibitor active." Tom's heart sank. The Void Hunters had deployed technology to prevent ships from leaving. The shuttle's engines wouldn't fire while the inhibitor was active. From the cockpit, Mr. Reed called back in a panic. "The startup sequence is running, but the engines won't engage." Another blast rocked the shuttle. Tom made a split-second decision. "Mrs. Parker," he said quickly, "get everyone secured in the passenger harnesses. Mr. Reed, keep working on the launch sequence. Be ready to take off the instant the engines are able to fire." "What about the inhibitor?" Mrs. Parker asked. Tom moved to the weapons locker near the ramp and entered his emergency override code. The locker opened, revealing a standard-issue mining laser, designed for cutting rock but effective enough against electronics. "I'm going to destroy it," he said, checking the laser's charge. "Dad, no!" Emma broke away from the group and ran to him, grabbing his arm. "Don't go back out there." Tom looked down at his daughter's face, memorizing every detail. Her mother's blue eyes, the small scar on her chin from falling off her first bike, the freckles across her nose. "Emma," he said gently, kneeling to her level. "Sometimes being brave means doing scary things to help others. Remember when Mom got sick and she told you to be brave for me?" Emma nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I need you to be brave again. Get in your seat, strap in, and take care of the other kids who are scared. Can you do that for me?" "But you'll come back, right?" Emma's voice cracked. Tom pulled her into a tight hug. "I'll do everything I can to come back to you. But no matter what happens, I'll always be with you, right here." He touched her heart. Another blast hit even closer, and the shuttle rocked violently. "We're out of time," Tom said, standing up. "Mrs. Parker, please." The teacher nodded, understanding. She gently took Emma's hand. "Come on, Emma, your dad needs to help us fly away from here." "I love you, Space Cadet," Tom said, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. "To the stars and back." "To the stars and back," Emma repeated their special phrase, allowing Mrs. Parker to lead her away. Tom hit the ramp, control, stepping out as it began to close. The last thing he saw inside was Emma's face, watching him with a mixture of fear and trust that nearly broke his resolve. Outside, chaos reigned. The Void Hunters were less than 50 meters away now, their energy weapons firing continuously. The transport vessels hovered overhead, their weapon systems powering up with an ominous hum. Tom sprinted toward a maintenance shed near the edge of the landing pad. According to the shuttle's display, that was where the launch inhibitor had been placed. Every step exposed him to enemy fire, but he zigzagged unpredictably, making himself a difficult target. A blast hit the ground directly in front of him, sending him flying backward. Pain exploded across his left side as he landed hard on the tarmac. Through blurred vision, he saw that his uniform was scorched, the skin underneath burned and blistered. "Get up," he growled to himself. "Get up." Forcing himself to his feet, Tom limped the remaining distance to the maintenance shed. Inside, he found what he was looking for, a black box with glowing blue lights, emitting a steady pulse that matched the rhythm on the shuttle's warning display. The mining laser felt heavy in his injured hands as he aimed it at the inhibitor device. The beam cut through the outer casing, causing the lights to flicker. Tom adjusted the beam's intensity, focusing on the internal components. Outside, he heard the heavy footsteps of the Void Hunters approaching. They knew what he was doing. The inhibitor sparked and smoked as the laser penetrated its core systems. With a final surge, the blue lights went dark. The device was disabled. Tom activated his tablet's emergency channel. "Read, inhibitors down. Launch now." From the landing pad, he heard the shuttle's engines roar to life. A wave of relief washed over him. They could escape now. But as he stepped out of the shed, he saw one of the Void Hunter transport vessels, repositioning, its weapons targeting the shuttle directly. If it fired, the shuttle would be destroyed before it could clear the atmosphere. There was one defense turret on this side of the landing pad, an automated system designed to protect against meteors and debris, but it could be manually controlled. It was just within reach, about 20 meters away. Tom ran for it, ignoring the searing pain in his side. The Void Hunters spotted him and redirected their fire. Energy blasts tore up the tarmac around him as he reached the turret's control panel. His hands flew over the controls, bypassing the automated systems and bringing the weapons online in manual mode. The shuttle was rising now, its engines glowing bright against the smoky sky. Tom targeted the closest transport vessel and fired. The turret's laser struck the vessel's weapons array, causing a small explosion that made it veer off course. But the second vessel was still in position, its weapons charging for a killing shot at the rising shuttle. Tom swung the turret toward it, but a blast from one of the Void Hunters hit the control panel, sending sparks flying. The targeting system was damaged, but the turret could still fire. Through the smoke and chaos, Tom saw the shuttle climbing higher, Emma and the others safely inside. The Void Hunter vessel fired a missile, its trajectory aimed perfectly to intercept the shuttle. In that moment, Tom knew what he had to do. There was only one way to save them. He positioned himself between the turret and the oncoming missile. Using his body as a shield, he reached around to the exposed wiring of the damaged control panel. With a final surge of strength, he crossed the wires that would cause the turret to overload. The resulting explosion was massive, creating a shockwave that knocked the missile off course. It detonated harmlessly in the air, well away from the escaping shuttle. As pain and darkness closed in around him, Tom looked up at the sky. The shuttle was just a small speck now, rising steadily toward the stars, toward safety, toward Emma's future. "To the stars and back, Space Cadet," he whispered as the world faded away. Tom Miller died as he had lived, protecting what mattered most. And high above, in a shuttle racing toward distant stars, a small girl pressed her hand against a viewport, watching her home disappear behind her, not yet understanding the full measure of her father's sacrifice. 3 months had passed since the attack on New Haven. On a Central Alliance world called Terra Nova, the morning sun streamed through tall windows, casting long rectangles of light across the floor of a modest apartment. Emma Miller sat at a small desk, her fingers carefully assembling a miniature circuit board. At 8 years old, she had her father's steady hands and sharp mind for engineering. "Emma, breakfast is ready," called a gentle voice from the kitchen. Linda Green, Emma's foster mother, was a kind woman in her 40s who had volunteered to take in survivors from New Haven. Her husband, Michael, worked in the Alliance Defense Department, which was how they had been among the first to hear about the disaster and offer their home. Emma placed her tools down carefully, exactly as her father had taught her. "Everything in its place, Space Cadet," he used to say. "A good engineer respects their tools." The memory brought the familiar ache to her chest, but she had learned to breathe through it. She walked to the kitchen, where Linda was placing a bowl of fruit beside a plate of toast. "Did you sleep better last night?" Linda asked, noting the dark circles under Emma's eyes that were slowly fading as the weeks passed. Emma nodded. "Only one bad dream." Linda didn't press for details. She knew about the nightmares, Explosions running through dark tunnels, and worst of all, watching her father walk down that ramp for the last time. Some nights Emma would wake up screaming his name. "Miss Parker is coming to visit today," Linda said as Emma began eating. "She wants to see how you're settling in with school." Emma brightened a little at the mention of her former teacher. Mrs. Parker had been one of the 23 survivors on the shuttle, and she had held Emma during those terrible first days after they reached safety, when the full reality of what had happened began to sink in. "Can I show her my project?" Emma asked. "Of course," Linda smiled. "She'll be very impressed." After breakfast, Emma returned to her room to get ready for the day. On her bedside table sat a telescope, not the one her father had bought for her 8th birthday, but a replacement the Greens had given her when they learned about her interest in astronomy. Beside it was a framed photo of Tom Miller, his arm around a younger Emma, both smiling in front of New Haven's community garden. Emma touched the photo gently before turning to her closet to get dressed. As she pulled on her blue shirt, her father's favorite color, she heard the doorbell ring. In the living room, Mrs. Parker was greeting Linda with a hug. When Emma appeared, Mrs. Parker knelt down to embrace her too. "Look at you," Mrs. Parker said warmly, "growing taller every time I see you." "I grew 1 whole centimeter since last month," Emma reported seriously. "Mr. Green marked it on the wall." Mrs. Parker smiled, but Emma noticed her eyes looked tired. All the adults had tired eyes these days. "Emma, why don't you show Mrs. Parker your project while I make some tea?" Linda suggested. Emma led her former teacher to her room where the half-assembled circuit board sat on her desk. "What are you building?" Mrs. Parker asked, examining the intricate pattern of connections. "It's a better emergency beacon," Emma explained. "The ones on New Haven weren't strong enough to get through the Void Hunter's jamming signals. This one uses multiple frequencies and a special coding system." Mrs. Parker's expression softened with a mixture of pride and sadness. "You're so much like your father. He would be very proud of you." Emma nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I know. He taught me lots of things about engineering. I remember them all." They talked for a while about Emma's new school and her classmates. Unlike many of the New Haven survivors who had been relocated across different Alliance worlds, Emma had adjusted relatively well to her new surroundings. The Greens had made sure she received counseling, and her natural resilience, inherited from both her parents, had helped her cope with the trauma. Later, when Emma was helping Linda prepare lunch, Mrs. Parker and Mr. Green spoke quietly in the living room. "How is she really doing?" Mrs. Parker asked. Michael Green ran a hand through his graying hair. "Better than most. The nightmares are becoming less frequent. The therapist says her focus on engineering projects is a healthy way of processing her grief. It keeps her connected to her father." "And the others from our group?" "All settled with families across 3 different worlds. The Alliance is keeping close tabs on everyone, making sure they have the support they need." Michael's voice dropped lower. "But that's not the only reason I wanted to talk to you today. There's been a development." Mrs. Parker leaned forward. "About New Haven?" Michael nodded. "About Tom Miller specifically." In the small dining room, the adults gathered around the table with Emma. Linda had made a special lunch with all of Emma's favorite foods. There was an air of anticipation that Emma didn't quite understand, but she could sense that something important was happening. After they had eaten, Michael cleared his throat. "Emma, there's something I need to tell you about your father." Emma looked up, suddenly alert. Any mention of her father immediately captured her full attention. "You know that your dad saved everyone on that shuttle," Michael began carefully. "But what you don't know is that he did something else. Something just as important." He pulled out his tablet and placed it on the table. "During the attack, your father managed to activate his engineer's data recorder. It captured everything: the Void Hunters' weapons, their tactics, even some of their communication frequencies." Emma's eyes widened. Her father had always carried that recorder. "Dad said a good engineer always keeps records," she said softly. Michael nodded. He was right. And those records made it onto the shuttle with you. When Alliance forces finally reached the system, they found his data. It's the most complete information we've ever had on the Void Hunters. Is that good? Emma asked hesitantly. It's very good, Michael said. The Alliance has been studying it for months. They've developed new defenses specifically designed to counter Void Hunter technology. 3 days ago, those defenses were used to successfully repel an attack on another mining colony. Mrs. Parker reached across the table to take Emma's hand. Your father saved more than just the people on that shuttle, Emma. He saved countless others who would have been attacked next. Emma sat very still, processing this information. Her father had always been a hero to her, but now he was a hero to others too. It made her feel both proud and sad at the same time. There's more, Michael continued. The Alliance Defense Council has created a new protocol for all frontier colonies. It's a special defensive system that automatically transmits sensor data and activates emergency beacons that can't be jammed. They're calling it Miller's Shield. Emma's eyes filled with tears. They named it after Dad? Linda put her arm around Emma's shoulders. Yes, sweetheart. Your father's name will help protect people for years to come. Later that afternoon, after Mrs. Parker had left, Emma sat at her window with her telescope. It wasn't dark enough to see stars yet, but she liked the feel of it in her hands, the solid weight, the smooth metal that reminded her of the tools her father used to let her hold in his workshop. Michael knocked gently on her open door. May I come in? Emma nodded, still looking through the telescope at the distant mountains. I have something else to show you, Michael said, sitting on the edge of her bed. He held out a small chip. This contains all your father's engineering notes and designs from New Haven. The Alliance preserved them from the colony's backup systems. I thought you might want to have them. Emma took the chip carefully, as if it were made of glass. All of Dad's work? Everything, Michael confirmed, including his design for an improved air filtration system that he was working on before the attack. Emma clutched the chip tightly. It was like having a piece of her father back. His thoughts, his ideas, his legacy. There's one more thing, Michael said. The Defense Academy has a special program for young engineers. When you're older, if you want, you could apply. With your father's talent in you, I have no doubt you'd be accepted. For the first time in months, Emma felt a spark of real excitement. I could build things to protect people like Dad did? Michael nodded. Exactly like that. That night, Emma lay in bed, the chip containing her father's work safe in a small box beside her. Outside her window, the stars had appeared, bright points of light against the darkness. She remembered how her father used to lift her onto his shoulders so she could see better through his old telescope on New Haven. Every star could have planets around it, he had told her, and someday humans might live on many of them. That's why we build things, Space Cadet, to help people live better, safer lives wherever they are. Emma touched the telescope beside her bed. 3 months ago, her world had ended in fire and fear. Her father had given his life so that she and others could escape, but he had also left behind something else, a purpose. In his final acts, Tom Miller had not only saved lives but had created a shield that would continue to protect others long after he was gone. To the stars and back, Dad, Emma whispered, their special phrase floating up toward the ceiling and beyond, into the infinite night sky. As she drifted toward sleep, Emma's mind filled with designs and improvements for her emergency beacon project. Tomorrow she would continue building one circuit at a time. It was what her father would have wanted. It was his legacy, living on through her. And somewhere far away, on colonies protected by Miller's shield, people would look up at the stars without fear, never knowing that their safety had been purchased by one man's sacrifice, a human who died protecting not just his child, but a future worth living in.